"Allow me, Superintendent, to interrupt you with a question," said Kay. "Did you not mention once before a control authority? From your description, the whole economy is one that would rouse one's apprehensions if one could imagine the control failing." "You're very strict," said the superintendent. "But multiply your strictness 1,000 times, and it still would be nothing compared with the strictness which the authority imposes on itself. Only a stranger could ask a question like yours. Is there a control authority? There are only control authorities. Frankly, it isn't their function to hunt out errors in the vulgar sense, for errors don't happen. And even when once in a while an error does happen, as in your case, who can say finally that it is an error?" "This is news indeed," cried Kay. "It's very old news to me," said their superintendent. "Not unlike yourself, I'm convinced that an error has occurred, and as a result, Sordini is quite ill with despair. And the first control officials, whom we have to thank for discovering the source of error, recognize that there is an error. But who can guarantee that the second control officials will decide in the same way, and the third lot, and all the others?" "That may be," said Kay. "I would much rather not mix in these speculations yet. Besides, this is the first mention I've heard of these control officials, and naturally I can't understand them yet. But I fancy that two things must be distinguished here. Firstly, what is transacted in the offices and can be construed again officially this way or that. And secondly, my own actual person, me, myself, situated outside of the offices and threatened by their encroachments, which are so meaningless that I can't even yet believe in the seriousness of the danger. The first evidently is covered by what you, Superintendent, tell me in such extraordinary and disconcerting detail. All the same, I would like to hear a word now about myself." "I'm coming to that too," said the superintendent. "But you couldn't understand it without my giving a few more preliminary details. My mentioning the control officials just now was premature, so I must turn back to the discrepancies with Sordini. As I said, my defense gradually weakened, but whenever Sordini has in his hands even the slightest hold against anyone, he has as good as won, for then his vigilance, energy, and alertness are actually increased, and it's a terrible moment for the victim and a glorious one for the victim's enemies. It's only because in other circumstances I have experienced the last feeling that I am able to speak of him as I do. All the same, I have never managed yet to come within sight of him. He can't get down here. He's so overwhelmed with work. From the descriptions I've heard of his room, every wall is covered with columns of documents tied together, piled on top of one another. Those are the only documents that Sordini is working on at the time, And as bundles of papers are continually being taken away and brought in, and all in great haste, these columns are always falling on the floor. And it's just those perpetual crashes following fast on one another that have come to distinguish Sordini's workroom. Yes, Sordini is a worker, and he gives the same scrupulous care to the smallest case as to the greatest.